Just a boat cuts away. Another angry white kid. Just a boat cuts away. Greta's going to be pissed.
Okay, we are live. 10/1/2024, very important date. This is One-Eyed Jack in the Shells, just a bowl cut away crisis actor for hire. Shout out to PewDiePie. And he did say, Lord knows I'm Vegas strong. Great song again, One-Eyed Jack in the Shells. And today's the anniversary of one of the more impactful psyops of recent years, because it was the Vegas psyop where conspiracy theorists were figuring out that they simulate mass casualty events were dragged back into believing it was real because it was attached to Q, into Trump. Now, it was a deep state thing with the second shooter. And there are still people today. I can point to High Impact Flicks and that Mandy something. There are a couple people who keep on repeating the notion that there was a second shooter and the event was real. Even, obviously, Jones pushes that line. But the fact of it is, this was a simulation. And something else that makes this a very important psyop to pay attention to is that this was when YouTube overtly declared that we need to emphasize authoritative news sources. This was when it was realized by a lot of people. This is when the term auto hoaxer became known, because the people who were calling things fake would get as many live viewers, if not more, than the mainstream coverage. So there we are, covering the coverage, which is what we're doing now. We're covering the coverage real time, and it was getting to the point where they were losing control of the narrative. So the Vegas event really marked a shift in everything. And from that day forward, they started de-emphasizing auto hoaxers, skeptics, and they would leak out the death toll, 20 people dead, 33 people dead, up to 58 or whatever it was on Vegas, but they wanted to control the information leak, and they didn't want skeptics ruining their show. Of course, those who still believe it's real have no explanation for how 50 of the same people were shot at again 13 months later at another event in another state, while down the street, the initial event was being reenacted by 50 crisis actors. This is all verifiable. These eerie coincidences are documented. So we'll continue to talk about the Vegas event. That's right, Thirst for Truth. Eddie Bravo loves himself some Vegas Strong. He had a Vegas Strong patch on one of his jackets. I remember I'm like, Eddie Bravo, Vegas Strong, Truth Week. We are joined by Thirst for Truth, deprogrammed truther, Shannon Jones, Angst G, Greg R, Flozik, Multi-Zero Jagger. I was going to go watch Megaopolis, but it looks mega boring, even though it looks like it contains a lot of very important predictive programming. But I didn't want to fall asleep, so I'm going to watch it tomorrow, earlier in the day. Ted Stryker says, 40 trillion gallons of rain dumped by Helen. Who measured that amount? Oh, you can trust Noah. And let me bring something up about this. So we have a real life catastrophe, the weather, the hurricane, the flood. And we don't know, if you're not there, how much do we know is real? Well, you can pretty much gather from user-generated content and what people are sharing the essential reality of it. There's no need to make it worse. And we already deal with that anyway. The weather's already blamed on one side of the political spectrum. They blame you for the bad weather. Oh, you're breathing too much, your carbon footprint. You need to mitigate that, recycle more. But now I'm finding that there's a whole army of crisis actors that came out where they're doing this thing that happened in Maui, where you have these individuals that you don't know in their car talking to the camera, and they're saying, I heard from my buddy that his buddy's buddy was there, and there's black helicopters and screaming naked kids, and the government doesn't want you to know about it. And then you have another group saying, the reason why these unions are going to protest or strike is that they're going to stop the human trafficking, and those cargo ships are full of humans being trafficked. So they're bringing back these kind of QAnon adjacent myths about the deep state being defeated finally. But it's all happening right now, and it's a lot of basically rumor-based psyops where there's like kind of like with the Hells Angels. Well, the Hells Angels are going to Colorado to stop the Venezuelan gangs from stealing the jobs of American gangs. Like, no, that's not actually happening. No part of that is true. But yet I'm going through my feed today, and I'm finding so many examples of people who are attaching themselves to the event through people that they know, or their buddy, or their buddy's buddy, where they're actually not even close to it. They're pretty far removed from these events, but they come on X as experts, and they're adding on to it with conjecture, saying it's worse than it is. And the point here is that the reason why I think it's wrong, for one, is they are specifically exaggerating how bad it is to get clicks. So here's an example. This guy says, and look, I've watched so many of these videos. One guy's like, if you're delivering supplies out there, don't. They're slashing tires. Like this, the deep state will slash your tires because they don't want aid getting to the victims. But let me read this one first, because this is a perfect example. This is Douglas Mackey, who said, it's bad out there, folks. Prayer emoji, crying emoji. So he posted this. Now, you notice he didn't say, I'm writing this. He just said, it's bad out there, folks. And he's sharing a screen cap from a TikTok video from somebody else. And this says, the update I got from my lineman friend in Asheville. Went up Old Fort Road, 100-foot ravine, kids walking around naked asking where their parents are, people begging for water, and there's Black Hawk helicopters from FEMA. I don't want to talk about the smell of the dead bodies. I'm in disbelief. So this guy gets 1 million hits for this. Somebody asked, I see this being shared around. What's the source? A TikTok. And so he falsely claims it's his, and he says, it's personal to me. I have family in the area. Family that know the pilot, that know the lineman through which they're connected to me. So he's like 6 degrees separated. They're clickbaiting a tragedy with fake news. That's what they're doing. It's just a form of engagement bait. Unconscionable, pretty disgusting. And there's a lot of people doing it. So here's another one. This is the disrespected trucker sharing a TikTok video. Just play a short clip. You can get the idea of this. We saw the same thing during Lahaina, during Maui, where you had these people claiming 1,500 children were incinerated by direct energy weapons.
So
oh, there's some sad music in the background.
someone want to explain to me why I'm on TikTok this morning, and I'm just video surfing, and I keep seeing video after video after video of people trying to bring in supplies, water, generators, gasoline, stuff of that nature, and they are being turned away. Why are people that are trying to bring in heavy equipment to remove debris, dig people out, why are they being turned away?
So we're being told that help is being turned away, but we're not shown anything. We're being told that tires are being slashed. Here's another one. This guy says, if the American people only knew how bad it was. So they're uploading these anonymous witnesses, and these anonymous witnesses have scripts. It reminds me of 9/11. And so if you notice that none of these Twitter posters are the content creators. They're sharing stuff they found on TikTok. So for all intents and purposes, these are anonymous sources. But listen to this one.
We also have another major issue going on in our ports right now, and I just wanted to speak on it because I don't think a lot of people understand why they're striking. One of the major reasons I've been seeing coming out of videos and reports from people talking about it is that they get tired of hearing children screaming inside the containers.
Yeah, so the shipping containers are being blocked by the unions, and it's because they're tired of hearing children inside of the shipping containers banging on the walls. This is sort of like how they said the children are being transported in tunnels beneath Los Angeles. So here's another example. Margaret Casey, the government and the companies don't want the humans in those containers found. The longshoremen are fighting for the trafficked in these containers that no one is stopping. I love these longshoremen. So just like we had the Hells Angels fighting the Venezuelan gangs, now we have the longshoremen rescuing the trafficked children. These are all just hopium-based rumors that are, again, very similar to what we saw with Q a few years ago. And I knew people who believed this stuff. They would say, hey, they can't report it on the mainstream news, but there were 5,000 CCP soldiers coming through the Canadian border through tunnels, and F-16s dropped bunker busters and killed them all, and rescued a bunch of hybrid mole children. Praise JFK Jr. It's like, how do you know? It's like, what? That's fan fiction. But let's listen to this guy. He sounds reputable. Again, they were tired of hearing the children scratching at the walls of the shipping containers.
Yeah, you heard that right. The workers are striking, and then one of the main reasons is they're tired of hearing humans being shipped over and screaming and banging on the inside of the shipping containers to get out. I understand we have a serious human trafficking issue in this country. I just did not think it was this bad. Never once did it cross my mind we need to be checking shipping containers for people. Can you imagine how long somebody's been inside of one of those, depending on how long they were waiting?
So they're kind of talking about like the Wayfair conspiracy, where you buy an overpriced filing cabinet that has a name, a weird name attached to it, and then a child with that name shows up in the cabinet when you buy it. But there's no source here. Yet, this gets 1 million hits. So you can make money with clickbait, and there's no fact-checking. Everyone here just believes it. Like, I go through the comments, and it's nothing but just credulous Kool-Aid drinkers. All right, we are joined by Observing Reality, Copaesthetic. Let's go, King Ravana. Observing Reality says, almost right away, footage coming out in social media and other places. They really upgraded their operation during Vegas. Yeah, no doubt. They're improving on the ground, but their space stuff is still terrible. I mean, they should have hired Christopher Nolan 20 years ago. Right now, I don't know who's directing the ISS, but it's one of the worst reality TV shows I've ever seen. Joined by Lean Dion, Cub Star. Diana South says, John Kerry said at the WEF yesterday he wants to end free speech. Yes, nothing new there. He wants us to also cut our carbon footprints in half. So if you could breathe half as much, John Kerry, Skull and Bonesman, would appreciate it. It's called World War Zero. In 2020, he and the Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, declared World War Zero on humanity. And what it means is we have to cut our carbon footprint in half by 2030. Carbon footprint is just code for your life. You're a carbon super spreader. Needs to stop. Observing Reality says, take the guns first, due process later. They're never going to take your guns. Just relax. They're never going to take your guns. They could care less. That's a psyop. Why would they need to take your guns? They already have your minds. They already control your minds. You can't go off the grid. If you dig yourself a bunker, lock yourself in, and you have your storable food, your InfoWars neighbor's ass jerky, and all that stuff, and you think you're set, You're actually not, because you're hiding from things that don't exist, things that they implanted into your mind, into the model which you mistook for the real thing. Let's Go says, I blocked a bunch of these clickbait accounts today. I'm done with the nonsense. I suspect a lot of them are going to disappear after the election, but I'm really fast to recognize them, like crisis shakers. People who pretended that the vax caused them to shake. We have the ma dead kids, but ma Maui dead kids, but ma do children from Maui. And a lot of people were like, wow, 1,500 kids are dead. I was calling it fake, and I said, fake dead kids' lives don't matter. And some people said, how dare you say that? I'm like, well, present to me one fake dead kid whose life matters. I can't think of any. Well, it turns out those 1,500 children existed, but it was just a reference to the 1,500 who had to stay home from school the next day. It was not like they were dead or they had been incinerated, and nobody was looking for them except for these TikTokers. But the idea that the longshoremen are fighting the deep state to rescue the children is as silly as the Hells Angels going to Aurora, Colorado to defend the Crips and the Bloods' turf from the Venezuelan gangs. Like, who believes this stuff? A lot of people, actually. Lean Dion says, love the music. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that music on that video is like the soundtrack from Leave the World Behind. And a lot of people are talking about that movie. Let's Go says, I blocked this clown, the sunglass idiot. Yeah. And speaking of clown, and I saw this good tweet. It said Clown World Complete. And it was the Joker movie poster. And their subtitle, the slogan, the movie has the tagline, the world is a stage. So the clown world phrase people use. It's true. Welcome to Clown World. Planet Netflix in the Disney universe. Let's Go says the good old boy accent sells it. Yeah, that was totally contrived. Like, he was code switching. One of my favorite ones, it was, I guess it was last year. There was this guy speeding down the highway. And I look in the back seat. He has these car seats and his kids are in the back seat, like these toddlers. And he's looking in the camera. And I'm nervous for his kids because he's looking at me. He's looking at TikTok. Meanwhile, his children are in the back. And he says, it's about to go down, World War III, we're all going to get nuked. Go to my website, get your storable food items right now. So he's doing this live stream, hyping up that World War III is about to happen, and he makes it look like he's driving out of town, just like Leave the World Behind. Like you expect there's a mushroom cloud behind him. And it's like, no, he's just driving on the freeway for dramatic effect. Endangering his children to sell survival goods. There's a lot of people doing that. Messianic Charlatan has joined us. Plain Decoded says they banned ARs and handguns them in Canada. I was one of the last people to buy a Glock 19. Okay, let me say this. They could take all the guns. It's not going to make a difference. They're not going to. But it's not going to make a difference. There's this notion that the American Second Amendment is the final firewall against total global tyranny. And if you don't cling to your AR-15s, then the deep state's going to take over, and America is the last bastion of freedom in the world. So we got to stand up for it because the left is against it. The globalists are against us. Lock and load. You know, get ready to defend the world. You're a hero now because you're an info warrior. And no, that's crap. The idea that they're going to take your guns is from the Turner Diaries, the ATF going to Waco to take the guns from the Branch Davidians, and that's where Alex Jones got radicalized. That's where Timothy McVeigh got radicalized. And Alex Jones has always been, they're going to take the guns. They're faking. They're doing this. They're doing false flags to take your guns. They're sending mentally ill psychopaths with guns into schools to kill children to take your guns.
Thank you for feeding the Kraken Multichero dagger. The IPS appreciates the support.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for feeding the Kraken Multi C0 dagger. We all appreciate the support very much. They're not going to take the guns. That's a psyop. They've already taken your minds. And they're not going to take your wombs. They're not going to take your guns. They're not going to take your wombs. What does that mean? What I mean is you have this dialectic, left-right, and it's a total schism. And it's also toxic femininity versus toxic masculinity. And so on one hand, you have The left wants to regulate the guns, and the right wants to regulate the wombs. We're talking about bodily autonomy, abortion. So you have this constant thing of one side is very insecure about what the other side's going to do, and I think this is a psyop. Like, they're going to take your guns is like saying, we're going to emasculate you. And the threat of the right taking control of reproductive rights is like, we're going to seize control of your wombs. So think about it. Guns and wombs is kind of a way of just tapping into very basic insecurities. That's really what it comes down to. And the men are being taught that if they take your guns, you're a Ken doll. You've been emasculated. You're superfluous. You've just got a nub. And that's a psyop in itself. Okay, let's move on here. Yeah, blocking clickbait accounts is actually a good idea. I do it all the time. And I'm just amazed at how truthers have no principle, and they put clicks over truth, and they act like they have some kind of moral high ground over the mainstream media. No, the mainstream media, as diluted and controlled and boxed in as they are, at least they aren't willingly and knowingly en masse promoting falsehoods. They're just brainwashed that way. But you have these do-it-yourself propagandists all over X who will just take clips out of context. They'll steal content from TikTok, anything for clickbait. They're taking somebody else's rumor mongering and putting it on their channel. Have you guys heard this? No vetting, but it's all for clicks. Dwayne Obit says, so many reporters on Twitter, it boggles the mind. Yeah, this is the point too. The left has the mainstream media and the right has the people's media. So these seeming eyewitnesses are all just to be considered alt media, controlled opposition. They're obviously paid. Dwayne Obit says, gun control, immigration, abortion have all been divisive political issues for 50 years. American political debate is like running on a perpetual hamster wheel. Yeah, exactly. And Thirst points out, NRA are just as much crisis actors as the actual crisis actors. That's a great point too. Do you think Armalite would have paid $73 million to the Sandy Hookers if they thought it wasn't legit? Like, if they had any sort of way to stop them from losing all that, to stop that huge settlement, they would have brought out some evidence. There's some incentive there. Like, hey, look, we're going to lose tens of millions of dollars. Maybe we should look closer at this particular event. But no curiosity. No, it's they're complicit. But I'm just suggesting here that the idea of gun confiscation is sort of weapons of mass destruction. These are these constructs they use to frame the world, to frame geopolitics in a certain way. Well, a lot of the threats, and it's not the thing, it's the threat of the thing that they need. And the threat of people having their guns confiscated has this slippery slope attached to it. If they take our guns, we're all going to be slaves to the New World Order. Sorry, you already are. And the fact you buy that narrative, if you do, is indicative of your belief in this. Because it's attached to the idea that the guns are going to be taken by the left, as though the left and the right have two separate controllers, or they're two different entities. They're really not. And these divisive issues are divisive down the line. It's a deliberately constructed dialectic. Left and right is not an oversimplification, but it goes into every single major issue. Dwayne Obit said the Chomsky quote, the smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow very lively debate within that spectrum. Yes, and let's go, what do you see? That's the worst. Matt Wallace is the worst. What do you see? Where they post something and they say, what do you see? So they're kind of getting you to engage and answer these questions, but they're always going by insinuation. And I'm totally against people just asking questions. There are people who've been just asking questions for 20 years and they haven't sought answers. If you're just asking questions and you're not trying to provide answers, then at some point we have to ask, are these good faith questions, or are you using questioning as camouflage for making assertions you cannot substantiate, or that would give away your agenda? And asking questions seems to give some kind of legitimacy to the loaded premise. Like, what are they spraying on us? That's a loaded question, and that fools so many people because they're like, well, I don't know. Let me think about it. It's got to be bad. Can't be good. They're spraying something, right? So the question, what are they spraying, presumes that there's a spray. And there's a major distinction to be made between a spray and condensation forming around hot air and jet exhaust. That's not a spray. Big difference. Because the spray would mean that there's a container inside that is going through the nozzle and it's spraying out the back. There's a loaded premise, and then with that, it leads you down these different trails. But simply asking that question is actually a way of asserting they are spraying something, and I don't know what it is. Well, why don't you know? If the question has been raised and you think it's a big deal and it's problematic, why haven't you done the research in it? Why don't you have the answers? And it's because the person has the answers, but if they said to you, hey, they're spraying chemicals to alter the weather, block out the sun, kill the crops, and depopulate the human race. If somebody said that, you would call them crazy and paranoid, and you would ask them why they're not wearing a mask. But instead of being held accountable for making such a wild claim they can't back up, instead they just pass it off as, I don't know, just asking questions. So when I hear people saying this or using this approach, my response now is, why don't you come back when you have some answers? Just asking questions, ambiguous evidence, claims that you can't really state emphatically, yeah, we can leave that in the dust. We don't need confusion. If you're confused, like, well, I think some people died at this event, but I don't know how many. Okay, well, let's get some specifics then. If you're going to say, I still believe people die at these events, well, then which event and who's dead? Because we can name names, we can find the lists, and you could say, well, I think this person or that person. But at this point, the burden of proof has been firmly shifted to the other side, and anyone still running damage control for the MSM has a lot of work in front of them. But as you can see, Trutherville suffers from a lack of methodology. They're lost in the sea of irrelevance. They're just basically doom scrolling and retweeting. There's no vetting, there's no framework, and within it, there's no collective grasp on what they're actually looking at. They're victims of misinformation, mind war casualties. And by the way, I think this is because of us. More and more, Elon Musk keeps on saying that the space program's latest launch, I think it's the Polaris. Here we go. He's basically saying that their stuff looks like CGI. On the Polaris, he said it looks like CGI, but it's real. But he's saying this more and more. So here's another example. This was today. Chris Hadfield said, very good to see Sonny and Butch's ride home safely docked to the space station. So much work to do up there. Well done. And Musk said, it's real, but it looks like CGI. Why would he say that? Why would he even go there? I have a feeling he's trying to diffuse what we're talking about, where we're making the case, it looks like CGI, it looks like CGI. And the glurfs and the gloobers are like, no, it doesn't, you crazy flat earther. It looks real. No, it looks like CGI. It looks fake AF. Well, now Elon Musk comes out and says, you know what? It does look fake. You guys have a point. It looks totally fake. So now we're vindicated. We're not being gaslit. And now the glurfs and the gloobers are like, yeah, you have a point. It does look fake, but it's real. So they're conceding a point, kind of a strategic retreat. Give them a little bit, but it's like Joe Rogan. Yeah, okay, fine, they faked the moon landing, but that was our greatest achievement. In other words, don't criticize the moon landing. It's the greatest achievement of mankind ever. It's the most American thing ever. Take pride in the moon landing. How dare you call it fake? What are you, a commie? Well, now it's like, how dare you, like you say it's fake. Now it's like, Well, we had to fake it to trick the Russians. It's our greatest achievement. So now people are taught to take pride in the psyop side of it. So Joe Rogan's out there saying, well, we had to trick the Russians. It was genius, basically. We did that. We tricked the Russians. So now we tricked the Russians is as noble a thing as saying we landed on the moon and beat the Russians. But anyway, Joe Rogan is here diffusing it. Salty Siren says, it's fake. No, it's real because it looks so fake. Yeah, what a warped statement. It must be real because it looks so fake. But now, he took the sting out of it. One of our greatest weapons was to say, it obviously looks like it's computer generated. That was one of our weapons. And they said, no, it doesn't. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. We've gone back and forth for years. And now they're saying, yeah, it looks fake. LOL, but it's real. Clever. Next thing you know, they're going to say, yeah, the ISS looks fake, but that's just because the lighting, or that's just because the Van Allen radiation belt distorts the film. They'll make something up, and they'll make concessions, but they won't let us take control of this. They're taking control of fake. All right, let's continue. Again, this is like the third time in a week, so it's a strategy to pay attention to. So I'm going to go see the movie Megaopolis tomorrow. Leo Pirate said, and if you care about spoiler alerts, you're in the wrong place. We are offering spoiler alerts for the world stage. So when we talk about something from a movie, it's because it's part of our research into the alignment, the entrainment, the synchronization between the entertainment and future news. And when I say the news is fake, or they're faking the news, I'm really saying they're faking history. And a lot of people say, do you think history is fake? And they're looking at mud flood videos all day. I'm like, you know what? They're faking history right now. Every fake news story becomes fake history. I think it's more important that we understand what that means right now than thinking about whatever happened in the past that might be covered up. And if you figure it out now, as we are, we might get better answers later. But I think it's important to focus on the here and now. So Leo Pirate said, there's a scene after the eye wound where an Elvis dances and sings America the Beautiful. I hope JL is listening. There's a scene after the eye wound where an Elvis dances and sings America the Beautiful, the same song the Mormon Tabernacle sang at Trump's inauguration. He takes center stage. Honestly, I don't understand the meta-scripting of Elvis, but I see him mentioned a lot. Okay, that's interesting in and of itself. But that follows another scene where, and I'm going to pull this up here, he says, far right-wing Nazis order a hit on Caesar Catalina in Megaopolis. Interesting considering both attempts on Trump have come from ostensible right-wingers. And yes, in later scenes, they make it clear it's a right eye wound. So there you have it. Right eye wound, Megaopolis just came out. And this coincides with some kind of Elvis thing that also has a Trump link. Very bizarre. Lot to say here. I have to go watch the movie because I've talked about it since it was in the film festivals. And the Vanity Fair article said that it opens up with some kind of Russian satellite falling to the earth, signifying the death of an empire. And as it's released, a Russian satellite breaks into 100 pieces, and the ISS has to duck and cover. And the ISS, in addition to being a bad reality TV show, is a symbol. International. It's the Tower of Babel. All nations, united, one purpose, going from earth to the heavens, one language. That's about to break and fall. The international solidarity. And this is a story, a script that we followed for a long time. And Megaopolis is just like saying Babylon. That's why it's in New York. And again, this movie was ready to be produced before 9/11, and he said he had to pause it because it pretty much foreshadows 9/11. And to have released it post 9/11 would have been insensitive, and it would have dulled its impact. So now it's been long enough So this is obviously something that is tied and going to be tied deeply into the metascript. So I want to point out something else too. Before this movie even came out, looking at the trailers, reading the press releases, I said this movie is going to contain predictive and concurrent programming. And what does it have? So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to watch it tomorrow. I'll do a full review. But if we can predict the predictive programming, then we know what's going on. It's not random. It's not from a higher power or a supercomputer. The same people that make the fake history, aka the fake news, are behind the scenes in all of the major mainstream productions. And one more quick point here. It only counts as predictive programming if it's mainstreamed, if it's mainlined, if it's downloaded, if it's projected onto the collective psyche, if we're all taking the download. That's the only kind of content I consider to be predictive programming. Because you may write something prescient, there may be some coincidental alignment between what you wrote or an idea you had and some future event, but that doesn't constitute programming by definition. You know, it has to be in the box. It has to be included in the simulation. And as you can see with the satellites falling and the Russian satellite breaking apart, it already has tie-ins. They've already merged the real and the fake. Okay, moving on. Magert4822 said that missile attack looked fake. G said the Elvis scene was out of nowhere. Yeah, it did look fake, but it's real. One way you know it's real is it looks fake. It's real, but it looks CGI. I'm still not convinced that Grimes isn't a CGI construct. I've watched some of her videos where she was talking about how AI and communism is going to work together, and none of us are going to have to work again because forced labor is not a vibe. We can sit around making NFTs all day. And I remember watching that thinking, that's like Musk wearing some kind of a deep fake suit, like an avatar, like the guy who played Gollum in Lord of the Rings. And I think Grimes is Musk's Gollum. Anyway, we already mentioned this. I haven't watched it. The Simpsons aired its season finale. Pretty sure that's a Leave the World Behind tie-in to the season finale of Friends. Man smashes a signed Taylor Swift guitar after buying it for $4,000. Now, I know we have a moratorium on Swift, but the reason why this is notable is that the predictive programming we analyzed in detail last year includes Leave the World Behind. There's a Taylor in there, in a blue swimsuit, blonde, who's missing at sea. And we saw a ton of linkages between Taylor Swift and iconic females who died tragically young. There have already been threats against her concerts, and it seems like there's this buildup towards some kind of outbreak of MAGA rage that may precipitate the lockdown of the internet. I've been forecasting this disease X. Well, here you have a perfect example of the rage virus. So here's a guy who buys a Taylor Swift guitar and publicly breaks it.
The wall hanger.
It's like smash it on the ground. And yeah, he's got a hammer, so he's hammering it. Now, this is sick. It kind of is sick. But I think that this might be some kind of indicator of where things are going. So just a heads up. Signed Taylor Swift guitar, sold for $4,000 and then destroyed. So I saw this other clickbaity Twitter channel, End Wokeness, and it said, breaking, dozens of military-age men from the Middle East invaded Texas today. So I'm looking at these individuals. Tommy Hilfiger, I think that's a Batman logo. And, I mean, very fashionable. And I have to say, I'm not intimidated by these military-age men. And I'm like, what are they going to invade exactly? The shopping mall? How is this threatening? So the military age men designation is something you hear from right-wingers. They see migrants or immigrants and they say they're military age, they're going to hurt me. Lefties will say they're working age, they're going to contribute to the economy, which is true. You know, are they coming here to kill or not? And I'm just looking at this and I'm kind of underwhelmed. They're all half the size of the agents here. They don't look like warriors. They look like they're shoppers, not soldiers. But Paranoia gets tons of clicks. Let me go and do a click check on this one. I want to see how many people took this particular story. Oh, 2.5 million. So 2.5 million people saw this. Like, they're coming for our cats. They're coming for our pets. Okay, let's see here. Way to show Swift, stupid, says Ted Stryker. Yeah, $4,000. Armin Reese says hammer is a communist symbol, breaking the elite idol guitar. Yeah, I doubt he caught that nuance there. I don't think he thought too deeply about it. I was hoping he would have smashed one of his own fingers. And I don't even listen to Taylor Swift. But I think this is just, again, an indicator of how brainwashed. I mean, the MAGAs have been turned into this like celebrity-obsessed movement, and they see the celebrities as part of the deep state. Not too dissimilar from the Great Satan. So the MAGA ban is not that different from radical Islam by design. Their enemies are the same. The deep state, the Great Satan. Okay, let's move on. Paradox Penguin says NASA officially began operations on October 1st, 1958. Okay, and that was a result of October 4th, 1957, when Sputnik beat them into space. I'm looking forward to watching Megaopolis because obviously it's chock full of predictive programming. So I'll do a full review. I have a notebook ready. Andrew Tate from Tater Tot University, where they teach young men how to groom future sex slaves. Andrew Tate gets back 9 supercars worth 3.3 million pounds. I was under the impression he was renting those things, but he got those cars back. I don't know if it means anything. Andrew Tate to get back luxury cars, Romanian court rules. He's still under house arrest, and not only is he Cypher from the Matrix, but he's also the basis for the villain in Speak No Evil that just came out, which is a movie about this character who's a paragon of toxic masculinity, everything that Andrew Tate is. And the idea that this movie would be out just as he's under house arrest, to me, I'm like, this is another one of these world stage characters. I mean, his dad's CIA chess player, world class. Andrew Tate is a chess player. He understands that it's obviously a game that's controlled from both sides, and he's playing both sides. So is Musk, by the way. You know, Musk is not a right-wing culture warrior. He's not at all what he pretends to be. He's deep faking. I don't know why people would fall for it. Green Bay Packers raise eyebrows with controversial take on whether the earth is flat. Yeah, I noticed there's some people kind of mad about flat earth right now. Brian Cox says that flat earth is a slippery slope. I mean, he didn't say that specifically, but he said, it's not only nonsense and laughable nonsense, but it's dangerous nonsense if you get large numbers of people. Brian Cox added that while people may argue it doesn't matter if people think the earth is flat, it can become a problem for that mindset to exist. Obviously assuring that our planet isn't flat and adding it's a little funny people believe it is, quote, the same kind of mindset can lead you to become suspicious about climate change or vaccination technology. And it makes a big difference to everyone. If you end up in a society in which conspiracies flourish and take root, you will lose contact with reality itself, he said. Sure enough, if people in your society lose contact with that process, then you're in great danger. With that in mind, he said, flat earthers are kind of funny at one level, but then it becomes quickly not funny at all. To believe the earth is flat is dangerous. All right. All right. A little fear-mongering, a little flat earth fear-mongering. But just to be honest about it, 99% or more of the mass murderers of the, I say 99% of the criminals in the world, all sorts of crime, 99% of the worst thieves, all the violent offenders, 99.9% of them have all been globe earthers. Like, most people are not flat earthers. And so the majority of the bad things in the world historically have come from the Gloober side. I don't think flat earthers have attempted to, institute, for example, slavery. That was invented by, I mean, these are ridiculous claims to say this little group is like especially bad. It's like, I don't know. They're kind of new. You can't really pin anything on flat earthers, is what I'm saying. It's like, no, you guys have quite a track record to clean up before you start scapegoating a small group who have come to believe that you can't be trusted. And what does it mean to say that you think the earth is flat or you question if it's a ball? It means you don't trust the people who tell you what to think about it. What does that mean? I mean, like, does that really mean there's anything wrong with you? No, it means they've lost their credibility with you. And why would they lose why would you cease to trust them? Well, we have reasons. Bad special effects. They have a propensity for lying anyway. It's a pathological liar. Their mouth's moving. Okay, let's see here. Jake says Tate is a woman. Yeah, I saw that video where he was wearing a thong, and a lot of people said that he was a woman. I'm like, I didn't look that closely. I don't think he's in a bodysuit. I don't think that he's. And if he's a woman, then he's a world-class kickboxing champion who beat a lot of men up. I also want to point out that line of thinking that all famous people are the opposite gender, or opposite sex, that is in fact a psyop. It is a psyop. And one of the things that I ask people who believe that stuff, because they're like, yeah, Trump is a woman. It's like, well then, who gave birth to Barron? Who gave birth to Barron? You can't say Trump unless you're going to say that a 60-year-old gave birth, which isn't impossible, but I don't think a 60-year-old Donald Trump gave birth. So let's stop with this nonsense. Yes, Ariana Grande triggered a response on Vanity Fair yeah, that's right. Let me bring that up. Ariana Grande stands out in this context because of Don't Look Up. And then she was attached to a bombing psyop. But she did a song for NASA at one point. Here we go. Ariana was left so stressed after a lie detector suggested she believes the moon landing is fake. Watch Ariana Grande fail a lie detector test on the moon landing. So for her to fail this test, now this is, you know why this is interesting to me, is one, she's in Don't Look Up. Two, she did a song for NASA, so she's part of their whole PR campaign. And three, Joe Rogan just said it's a hoax because we had to trick the Russians. Based on Fly Me to the Moon, I think that's the new script. That's the new story. This has been hinted at in a few different movies. I think even Interstellar may have brought this up. I have to watch it, but someone had alluded to this scene, and I watched it, where it was explained in these textbooks, we had to fake the moon landing to trick the Russians. So they might be wheeling that out. That might be something that they're bringing out as acceptable. And so who better to kind of say, hey, I don't believe in it, than her? Especially if your non-belief is based on the fact that maybe it wasn't true and they had to fake it. So it goes on. Let's see here. The vile exchange starts with Arivo, who plays Elphaba in The Wicked, asking her, do you believe the moon landing was fake? And she replies, what do you take me for? No. But the lie detector said inconclusive. Do you think the moon landing is fake? No, not until now. They laugh at it before coming back to the point where Arivo's in the hot seat, and she says she doesn't think the moon landing was fake, and it agrees, causing Grande to freak out. She says, I don't think it was fake either. Fascinating. The Tony winner replies, I've never questioned it because so many people have been to the moon since then. So many? How many? Okay, I found the video here. Let's go ahead and play this.
Can I ask you some question?
Holy, yeah.
Do you think the moon landing was fake?
Jesus Christ. What do you take me for? No.
Inconclusive. This is what it's saying. That's hilarious. It's hilarious. Do you think the moon landing is fake?
No, not till now. Not till Stephanie put that in me. But, you know, we've been there.
The machine is showing deception. You do believe it. That is hilarious. Do you think the Earth is actually flat?
No.
She may be telling the truth.
What in the do you think I am?
Okay, now this is the exact same talking points that Joe Rogan was espousing. Moon landing is fake, but the Earth isn't flat. That goes too far. So here you have Ariana Grande inadvertently admitting, and they're laughing about it. Just like in Fly Me to the Moon, they made it a joke. So she's laughingly saying, indirectly, that it's fake, or they're suggesting it. And at the same time, of course, the Earth isn't flat. So they don't go that far. Angst says that's a discredit up. Thirst says Transtardia, the small island right before Doozelville. Yeah. And there are some people who still circle that island. And the best I can say is they just don't have a lot of real world experience. They have an oversimplified model. And these are called active measures. Active measures are PSYOPs targeting demographics, specific demographics that need to be nullified and diffused. So they fill up your whole group of thinkers with bad ideas that kind of scatter the integrity of the group. When we coined the phrase auto hoax or GTFO, originally it was full red pill or GTFO, but red pill was co-opted. But auto hoax or GTFO meant if you're here as a media advocate, you need to leave. If you're here to defend the integrity of the screen, if you're a defender of the monolithic mind control, what are you doing here? Like, we're happy to study your argumentation, but it doesn't make any sense. And if you allow people who haven't taken this step into our midst, we would be outnumbered. Skeptics are outnumbered 10,000 to 1, 20,000 to 1. And if we say, hey, you know what, we need the men, let's just let the chemtrail people in here because we're kind of running short. We could use a bigger crowd. We lower our standards that much, we would be flooded. And the issue here is that the people who fall for these PSYOPs will automatically fall for other ones because they're essentially open. They have some blind spot, some logical fallacy they still fall for. They haven't been fully inoculated against the mind war. They got to get their auto hoax boosters. Speaking of auto hoax boosters, we had Auto Hoax Con #1, and I deleted it from YouTube because YouTube is spying on me right now. Kind of a backstory. Donald Trump Jr. was asked who Q is, if it was Trump, and he was talking about Q this morning. Right after that, YouTube pulled down my video where I doxed Q. So somebody went through and flagged my video. So I thought, I don't want to risk my channel, so I had to pull it off the channel. I had a WTC7 Auto Hoax Con #1. You can still get it on BitChute, Infinite Plane Society, but tonight I'm going to upload it. So you can watch it, you can listen to it, it'll have the transcripts. After this live stream, I'll send it out. So if you want to subscribe at ips.monster, you will have that sent to your inbox. Okay, next clip. Packers fans were quick to weigh in on the amount of times the flat earth conspiracy has been raised. As a Packers fan, this is too many players who believe the earth is flat. So let me play this clip here. It's a collection of football.
The earth is flat. We'll just float away.
That was questionable. That was questionable right there.
The earth is flat. I'm right, you're wrong.
Let's go with the if Earth's flat, and why we cannot go past Antarctic. That's a good one too.
All right, yes, an alarming number of Green Bay Packer players are suggesting the earth is flat. Marcel says, good morning, Tim, IPS chat. Thank you for joining. So what are we talking about today? Vegas Hoaxiversary. We haven't really gone into Vegas. The latest on it is Jason Aldean, who was 33 at the time, was recently on Tucker Carlson talking about his video, Try That in a Small Town. Try That in a Small Town ties into the rural versus urban dialectic, left and right, get out of the cities. The song, Try That in a Small Town, had a video that featured a courthouse where a lynching, an infamous lynching took place. And it had clips from 2020 BLM riots. When pressed about this, he claims he had no idea that the video had a courthouse that had any kind of meaning at all. He totally played dumb. He turns out to be friends with Candace Owen, and she said that it was just an innocent video. So they really talk down to their audiences. They really do play dumb. Candace Owen does it. Tucker does it. They act like that their audiences are stupid. Like, no, we didn't mean to insinuate anything with Try That in a Small Town. No, you were calling out the left. You were calling out BLM. You had them in the video. They pulled it out of the video because of the controversy, but he's still out here lying and pretending like they weren't deliberately trying to incite a response. So he's a propagandist, just like all the others. All right, moving on. So here is the segment where Donald Trump Jr. is asked about Q, and he doesn't deny it.
Who is Q? You'll never know, folks. I'm not sure. Or maybe I know and I just can't tell you. Who do you guys think it is, out of curiosity? Salty cracker for press secretary? Q is Trump? I don't know.
So there's people in the comments wondering who it is, and I've been in here answering the question all day long, and I supplied this video. If you haven't heard this video, this is Alex Jones admitting he knows Q. And
like on the drops, he said that?
You know something, Eddie? If we ever have dinner again, which I'm sure we will, you know I know who Q is, right?
What? No way. You know what? Why would the MSM? Why would MSM do that? Why would they do that? Why would they fake that?
Eddie knows who it is too, and Alex invites him to go meet him and Joe Rogan, and they'll talk about it. Eddie knows. I have the evidence here from MGTV/George News/ it's the same person, but Eddie keeps cutting him off. He won't let him say. And Jones says he doesn't want to betray the confidence, but that if you want to go talk to me with Joe Rogan, I'll tell you.
Hey, fuck it. Just tell me the way you were going to tell me. Don't give up his name. Just tell me.
Look, I swear on my children this is true. I don't just do that for no reason, okay? Like, you believe me, right, Eddie?
I do. I don't know why, but I do.
Look, if I give up confidences and say names,
yeah, I don't want
never
you to get killed.
There was 2 Qs. There was 3 Qs. There's a bunch of idiots who know what they were doing.
Anyway, he ends up not saying it. But no, mentioning him won't get me a strike. But that one video where I named him, described his background, and connected him, that was taken down. I'm going to contest it. It wasn't a strike. It was a warning. But as a result of the warning, I'm being a little more careful about it. But I'm also going to produce a new video, a 20-minute breakdown of who Q is, and I'm going to put it on BitChute. I think the reason why he's nervous is he's about to be doxxed by Hunter Biden's legal team. And when that comes out, his association with the White House Press Corps, White House Communication Agency, Donald Trump Jr., Jones, Rogan, Bravo, and Jack Posobiec, and a host of others I can name, it's going to explode. It's going to be a spectacle. I can't wait. And when that happens, when he's associated with Marco Polo and Garrett Ziegler, I'm going to serve him legal papers directly. As far as my lawsuit versus him, October 31st is the first pretrial hearing. Elephant Tusk says, I thought it was interesting how on Batman and the Penguin, the drugs are called drops. Fascinating. That's right. I think there's a new episode of the Penguin coming out tomorrow. Is it Wednesdays? And on the 4th, Joker 2. And Joker 2 obviously is going to contain predictive programming. Now, for those who are still caught up in synchromysticism, that it's just a coincidence and it's too complex to have been orchestrated by man, I'm just going to say this now. In 4 days, I'm going to watch Joker 2, and based on our understanding of how media truly works, it's a reasonable assumption to say that it will contain concurrent and predictive programming messaging that will correlate with future news events, perhaps even news events that take place next week, that it will mirror what's happening on the world stage. And its tagline is the world's a stage, but I can say that with confidence that it will contain these things. If predictive programming was random, if it was coincidence or synchronicity, or if it was emanating from some higher power, we would not be able to predict it. The predictability is a big deal. If you can't predict synchromystic connections the way we can predict predictive programming, you have the wrong model. One reason why chemtrails have been debunked, the main thing is that they're not predictable, yet contrails are. The predictability matters here. Okay. Moving on here. We talked about Brian Cox, slippery slope, flat earth, anti-flat earth stuff. I don't know why they're still triggered by it, to be honest. One more thing. I did not get hired for some reason. I don't know what it is. Do I give off mass shooter vibes? That's 3 times that I was hired at Walmart and the background check didn't go through. I applied at a call center and I got the notification. They said they believe in me, but they can't use me at this time, which is not a big deal, but it would have been convenient. So I was thinking, well, what can I do instead? Well, I used to do private commissions. I stopped because they're time and resource intensive and messy. Acrylic paint is messy. But in the last 6 months, I've transitioned from acrylic to watercolor. Watercolor's not messy. It's not all that time consuming. The colors are vibrant. And after a few months of practice, I've kind of established a routine where I render something with Dolly or Midjourney or Ideogram, and then I paint it. And so I'm going to do private commissions now as a way to supplement my income here. And the only stipulation is I'm not going to work from my imagination. It's going to be prompted images, because another thing, I got bored with private commissions because the ideas that people submitted were generally underwhelming. And I don't want to paint somebody's, backyard. I don't want to paint something bland. And so I will take a limited number of private commissions, watercolors, from 9x12 and up with a 3-day turnaround, as long as the concepts are rendered through some kind of AI generator to save me the mental work of coming up with something. So I'm putting a link in the chat. I'm going to do 10 this month, 10 next month, and I'm taking orders now. So there is a link, and this is my solution, my temporary solution to keep everything moving forward, especially the publishing wing. And it doesn't have to be cyborg penguins. It can be anything Halloween themed. Some people wanted me to do some Wolverine and Deadpool penguins. I can certainly do that. You can do mashups, any style, graphic novel, pixel art, just name it. So if you need any ideas, I can generally help out when it comes to prompting things. And if you need ideas on where to go for your art, I'd also recommend Grok. If you haven't used Grok, it's the X-based AI. All right, let's move on. Later tonight, in fact, I'm going to send it right now. Auto Hoax Con Number one, audio and video is going to be sent to the newsletter right now. So let me go ahead and push that send button. So subscribe at ips.monster. You'll get the entire thing, including the transcripts. And that has been sent. It was uploading this entire time. It's 5 hours long. And I want to also point out that we're going to do AutoHoaxCon number 2 at the end of this month. And it's open right now to anyone that wants to present something from the off-world stage perspective. So anything that you have, a channel to promote, a specific angle, or even a topic, if you want to double down on a topic. Of course, I'm going to re-invite the previous speakers for this one to go into deeper detail. So we're going to be also opening it up to more attendees. The next one will be live streamed, but the comments and the participation will only be from those in the Zoom conference. So the ticket holders will have the ability to do Q&A and to also participate, but we are going to also live stream it. So, I mean, 5 hours. If we have a video up that long, if we're live streaming for several hours, we can easily get over 300 people, 400 people. HG says, do you think your online activity bothers prospective employers? My hunch is corporations don't like anybody controversial in their ranks. I'm almost certain of it. I'm almost certain of it. What else would it be? I think that's what's happening. I think I have some online footprint. Maybe they find the lawsuits. You know, I have all these lawsuits with Google and YouTube and John Doe's. It's a mess. And that could be a barrier. I've been thinking that's probably the case. So it's not something I can fix in the short term. But in my opinion, and I'm not the judge here, but in my opinion, I've met all the requirements for a summary judgment in my favor, a default judgment, in fact, against MG. And I expect that resolution soon. Our first meeting is in 30 days. I don't see it taking much longer. And in my opinion, I think the judge is going to allow Google to dismiss themselves, but then I am going to bring in the John Doe employee at YouTube as a secondary defendant. Meanwhile, I'm probably going to get a default against Goldfinch. And it's instantly collectible once he is doxxed by Hunter Biden's legal team. And that's about to happen. So overall, I think it's looking pretty good. It's a win-win-win situation. Multiple paths to victory. Anybody here following the P. Diddy story? It's worse than Epstein. I think it's much worse. It's very salacious, obviously. I don't know how much of it is true, but I tend to believe this more. I mean, Epstein, we just have videos of him dancing with Donald Trump. A few videos where he's talking, but you don't have a lot with Epstein. Maybe the depositions. But with Diddy, you do have videos of him being creepy, being kind of groomy, weirding people out. He tried to put his hand on Mike Tyson's thigh, and Tyson politely removed his hand and moved. He could have slugged him. So you could see that Diddy has a history of crossing lines. I don't know how much of this is real or fake, but the latest story, the latest reports, is that there are 120 people who have, from ages of 9 and up, involved in this. It sounds insane. I don't know if anything is leaked, but apparently, allegedly, there are videos. Again, I'm highly skeptical because of the nothing burgers served to us with the Epstein thing. Go ahead and play a clip here.
Many of you came here thinking or hoping or perhaps believing that I may start naming names. Well, that day will come, but it won't be today. The day will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names. It's a long list already. And of course, I already know who some of these individuals are, but because of the nature of this case, we're going to make damn sure that we're right before we do that.
120 people, some kind of operation, and it involves more than just Diddy. And I've heard people claim, and I don't know if these are true, but you have people coming forth claiming that Ye was involved and he and Diddy are all part of this thing. But they casually throw these things around. You can't really trust it. And a lot of it could be a psychological operation. So I'm not really inclined to take it 100% serious. I need more information. And I think that's generally true. Do you have enough information to know on any news event? And at what point, like, you certainly can't just trust the screen, but at what point do you think you have enough information? And I'm not willing to run with it. Like some people are running with these things. Just, yeah, the Hells Angels are saving us from the Venezuelan gangs, and the longshoremen are rescuing the children from the crates from Wayfair. Armin Ree says, my bet is they will soon come up with a penguin virus just to wink at the raft. Well, I recall Dr. Fauci wearing a penguin mask at one point. Like a mask with penguins all over it. You know, when the whole thing started, I was selling plague masks because I didn't take it all that seriously. And a few people ordered them. A lot of people ordered them, actually. I haven't listened to this yet. I plan to listen to it today. Bondversations. It's with Will Duffy. Will Duffy. Would you accept a free ticket to Antarctica? What if it risked exposing your model of the world as a complete sham? I spoke with Will Duffy about the Flat Earth final experiment. So the final experiment is an all-expense-paid trip to Antarctica in order to observe the 24-hour sun that would debunk the flat Earth domed enclosed biblical model. Interestingly, since this was offered, this trip to Antarctica, a lot of the famous flat earthers declined. Dave, Flat Earth Dave, Fed, or Dearth, he claimed that they're likely going to dangle a fake sun from a helicopter and do circles around the flat earthers to trick them. That's what he actually said. So he's not behind it because he feels like it's going to be a false positive and they're going to trick people into believing in the globe this way. I think Jaren's espoused the same thing. They're actually turning down a trip to Antarctica based on this. And that's anti-science. It's embracing ignorance. It's cowardly. And I told a number of these people, if nobody volunteers, send me. I will happily go. But they're already preparing. Like, what if they find a 24-hour sun? How are we going to respond to it? What are we going to say? To me, I'm just into it for the information. But there isn't a flat Earth model that I consider to be valid. There isn't a globe Earth model that I consider to be valid. At this point, accepting a model is on too little information, or a lot of information that is questionable, which is what we have right now. So it's premature. At this point, I'm looking at worldview, open and closed systems, the boxes that we're in, the veils that they use, the false explanations that are used to prevent people from becoming too curious about various aspects of our Truman Show. But I put a link below if you want to listen to this podcast, the first part. It's from johnlebon.com. If you want to check it out, bookmark it. I'm going to listen to it tonight. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Marcel says a new bird flu wouldn't surprise me at all. Oh, if they made it a penguin bird flu? Yeah, anything to drown us out. I do think there's something going on here. I don't think these are coincidences, that Musk is conceding that everything that they're doing looks like CGI. Why would they even agree with us? Well, it's because they're trying to defuse our bomb. That's what it comes down to. A little more detail. That lawyer I mentioned, I played a minute ago, it's Tony Busby. He says, quote, many powerful people, many dirty secrets, pictures, videos, texts, violent assaults, facilitated with controlled substances, dissemination of recordings, abuse of minors. We will expose the enablers. So this is bombshell. This is way worse than Epstein. But we're so close to the election, I'm still highly skeptical about it. This guy gives me Lynn Wood vibes. Elephant Tusk says, Toilet Roll Wars 2 has begun. Has it? Are you serious about it? You know, we did find predictive programming for that in The Walking Dead. Penguinati flu. Okay, moving forward here. The world is a stage. Clown world complete. This is the image I was looking for. So let's take a look at this. Joaquin Phoenix. I think the name Joaquin, by the way, correlates with the Masonic pillars, Boaz and Jacob. The spelling, it's not only very close, but the Batman Joker, B and J, the black and white, that duality, has the Batman universe has been superimposed onto our psyops for so long. And we've been talking about this since Joker 2 had a mob scene. They had a big riot scene that was being filmed at the courthouse while Trump was being arrested on 4/4/2023. And passersby and onlookers thought the mob was there for Trump. No, they were actors. So this merging, this convergence of the movie world and the real world is ongoing. And it goes back to the Aurora shooting, and Trump going to Aurora very soon ties into this, the Joker shooter. And this is, again, a movie premiere for Dark Knight Rises, Christopher Nolan, and a Joker shooter comes out. This latest shooter, Ryan Routh, laughing in court like the Joker. The hair, blue and yellow, making green. The previous appearances at Trump trials, Robert De Niro, Trump deranged, outside the Trump courthouse. He was killed by the Joker. And the character, the Joker, in that movie was inspired by Travis Bickle, Robert De Niro in The Taxi Driver, who was an assassin, in a movie that inspired the real-life attempt on the life of Reagan by John Hinckley Jr. So we're looking at this overlapping of the Batman Joker stuff, the same actors, the same basic storyline, and it goes way back. But it's so obvious to me that right now the fictional universe that is attached to the left-right is the Batman Joker. Joker would be the Antifa, the BLM side, the masked rioters, the looters, the chaos agents, kill the rich, class warfare. And this even goes back to Heath Ledger burning the money because Gotham deserves a better class of criminal. Class warfare. Batman is the Patriot Front, the Western chauvinist, the Proud Boys, the 3%ers. So you got the far right, far left political horseshoe represented in Batman and Joker. Maggart 4822 says, pull Diddy Joker up, Tim. Yeah, what's up with that? So P. Diddy had made appearances as the Joker, and they asked him not to do it anymore. There has to be a deeper meaning to this. Not sure what. No coincidences on the world stage. Another thing too, Joker 2 comes out, sequel. Beetlejuice comes out, sequel. Beetlejuice, green hair, Joker-esque character, whose wardrobe looks just like the Hopi Kachina doll of the Joker. They're dealing with archetypes, archetypal imagery. Maxwell Azrello sets himself on fire outside the Trump courthouse. Maxwell Azrello, the name Azrello directly ties into the Batman universe, one of its primary writers of the Batman Joker storylines, but also the actor Maxwell Azrello, the crisis actor. He's pictured with Newt Gingrich, and he's wearing a shirt that says "Eat the Rich," a Bernie Sanders shirt. Bernie Sanders, communist, class warfare, kill the rich. Kill the rich was one of the reoccurring memes in the Joker movie. And one more point here. Kill the rich. What was Maxwell Azrello about? He said that there's a left-right combined, unified, fascist takeover. It was all about the rich, the money thing. And he sets himself on fire. He's from St. Augustine, which was torched by Sir Francis Drake. And at the same time, he's on fire. You had the Copenhagen Stock Exchange, their oldest stock exchange's steeple was burning. That thing. Waco. Trump kicked off his campaign in Waco, the day after Netflix releases Waco, American Apocalypse. So this Maxwell Azrello burning has these tie-ins, goes pretty deep, and it goes even deeper when you look at the site of the Copenhagen Stock Exchange burning, and there happens to be, weirdly, a Batman logo, like on a poster hanging next to it. None of this is coincidental. The 419 date of this burning man outside of the Trump courthouse correlates with not only Waco and Trump, Dave Koresh, but also with Timothy McVeigh, who was executed on 6/11. All these connections run deep. Batman came out on the same day that Joker Sarnaff, the Boston bomber, they called him the Joker, had his death penalty reinstated. So I'm just pointing out that the Joker, too, is obviously highly significant. And 10/4, the date 10/4, also has another meaning to it. It has sort of an 8/4 tie-in, another connection to the Trump shooting thing. And another thing, too. So season 4, episode 8 was called Assassination Run. So 4/8, Assassination Run. The Boys. The character, the Homelander, looks like Trump. There's an assassination attempt. He's got blood on his face. It's too reminiscent of what just happened, so they changed the name of the episode. Stranger Things, season 4, episode 8. A character played by Matthew Modine is shot by an AK-47. Matthew Modine played Joker in Full Metal Jacket. Joker in Full Metal Jacket is based on JFK, and that's where he has the target on the side of his head. And the whole movie is replete with references to the Kennedy assassination. But when I saw Joker, the character in Full Metal Jacket, with a target on his head, I said, Trump is going to get shot where the 45 is on the side of his head. It's Kubrick's signature. And what happened? Pretty much that. One more point, too. We're talking about the sequel to the Joker, the sequel to Beetlejuice, the connections to this Joker-Batman dialectic. Beetlejuice was played by Michael Keaton, another Batman character, versus the Jack Nicholson Joker. Jack Nicholson, of course, was in The Shining. There's some fascinating linkages between not just the meta-scripters, but the actors that are used to convey their archetypes and their messages. Like, and these are not coincidences. Heath Ledger, the previous Joker, so now you have Joaquin Phoenix, Phoenix signifying a resurrection. The Joaquin Phoenix also has had tons of Christ typology. Like 8mm, he gets crucified on a St. Andrew's cross, shot with an arrow. This stuff goes back, but Heath Ledger on 4/4/2023 as Joker 2 is being filmed outside. That was the 55th anniversary of MLK's assassination. 1. 2, that was Heath Ledger's 44th birthday. So you have the 44 on 4/4, Joker 2 being filmed at that location. And this was also Holy Week. And Trump had been compared to Christ by pretty much everybody on the right, including MTG. 360 Pick says, Western people arguing flat earth, migrants are walking the earth. Oh, you mean shoppers. Are you talking about the shoppers? They're not soldiers. Let me show you a picture here just so you know what you might be afraid of. Yeah, we're talking about flat earth because, look, and Wokeness reported this today. Dozens of military-age men invaded Eagle Pass, Texas, and they got Tommy Hilfiger. I think I saw a Batman shirt in there. I mean, they're very well dressed, but I'm like, these are not soldiers. These are shoppers. They're here to become Americans, to buy stuff, to get iPhones, to go on TikTok. Some of them might even doom scroll, but they're not a threat to you. It's like, oh, migrants. We're scared of migrants all of a sudden. And the xenophobia is mind control programming, and it's not a coincidence that Tucker Carlson says the aliens are demons. They're evil. They're dark. The truth about it is they're dark. And then he's like, the illegal aliens come from far away, like South Africa, and they're military-age men. So they're making the same case that we need to be afraid of illegal aliens and extraterrestrials because they're both dark and evil. In the same breath, like, this is Tucker Carlson saying, fear the alien. The left is embrace the alien. So this is another dialectic. It's another split, another thing. You can just ignore it because it's a bifurcated psyop. The right wing says, fear the alien. extraterrestrial and terrestrial. That's why they're all about Trump and Space Force. That's why they think, look, if aliens arrive, MAGA is going to go out there with their big trucks and their shotguns, and they're going to shoot at the aliens. The left is embrace the aliens. They want the aliens to give them the technology and to show us the way. And at the same time, the left opens their doors to illegal immigration. So why is the left in love with aliens, terrestrial and extraterrestrial, and why does the right fear them both? It's because they're mind controlled. And aliens are called grays because the alien invasion agenda represents the synthesis of these dialectics. The black and the white mixes into gray, and we're just about there. I happen to think the alien invasion theme, the story, is not going to be leading up to a faked invasion so much as I think it's the storyline of us eventually being invaded and conquered and unified by the alien invasion. But the aliens aren't other beings. It's us. And it's the dissolution of national identity. It's the one world thing. That's what's coming. But you can't stop it. Paradox Penguin says Modine also played Batman as Deputy Police Commissioner. Fascinating. Now again, Modine is in Stranger Things Season 4, Episode 8. He gets shot. He's a Trump proxy. The Homelander, Season 4, Episode 8, Blood on His Face, assassination scene, 4-8. He's a Trump proxy. When I say proxy, what I have to define these things. When we're looking at a predictive programming scene for a future news event involving some future politician, for example, you can look at that actor and call that person a predictive programming proxy. Robert De Niro played a predictive programming proxy for the Trump assassination in his role as the senator in Machete 2010. And he foreshadowed Trump's assassination scene, even the things he was talking about, very accurately. And this was in 2010 before Trump was even in politics. That shows you that Trump is playing a role. This is like season 33 of The Apprentice. It never ended. He was never autonomous. If you're following him, you're following either A, a Truman who's totally controlled and insulated, or B, a PSYOP operative at a very high level, crisis actor in chief. .360 said, if the Earth is spinning and wet, wouldn't it become like a pizza? Well, according to conservation of angular momentum, in my opinion, every planet should look like a pizza. Every planet should be flat. I mean, the universe is flat. The solar system's flat, with the exception of Pluto, which is why it's designated, the underworld, because it's below the ecliptic. Galaxies are flat. And so why isn't the Earth flat? Well, it's because it's an oblate spheroid. People say, well, the Earth can't be flat because every other planet's a perfect ball. Well, the Earth's not a perfect ball. It's an oblate spheroid. So to use your logic, why aren't the other planets oblate spheroids? Why isn't Saturn shaped like a pumpkin? Or Jupiter? Or Venus? Why are they all perfect spheres? That's more questionable. Like, why is Earth the exception? Why is Earth the chubby one? What makes us different? .360 said you could do 11 penguins times 3. Yeah, if you want, anyone here, if you want to pre-order private commission, I'm even looking at doing some Joker penguins. So I will do private commissions. Go to ips.monster. If you click the link at the very top where it has the art for sale, it takes you directly to the shop, and you could have anything made, private commission, a watercolor penguin based on AI art. I want to do some Jokers, so I'll put a link here if you want to order them. Limited number because I can only reasonably do 10 per month. Okay, this is a great catch-up. We'll continue this tomorrow. I sent out the Auto Hoax Con number 1. If you are interested in or you want to recommend somebody for number 2, just let me know on any of these platforms. And if you can't make it, we don't have the date set yet. But just because you can't make it doesn't mean we can't pre-record. I do want to have some pre-recorded segments so we can take breaks and space it out and have it go the whole day. So I'm not going to really say no to anyone who has a perspective, an idea, a topic. So definitely I take recommendations as well, but don't hold back if you want to. I'm even open to musicians. You know, I think we had that Exit the Matrix. We had performances by MVP and Chief Crow. Great meme stream. Pingu33 says 11/3/2011 earthquake Japan. Is it fakeable? Good question. And that was the original 3/11 event. And after that event, Jones was selling iodine because of fallout. They can't wait to make money off the PSYOP entertainment complex. The only thing that they've missed, because it seems like they make money for everything. They find out, okay, well, now we're going to sell horse paste. They got to sell the anti. But it seems to me that the one thing they missed, and this is a huge blind spot, if he could go back in time, I think he would do it. InfoWars should have been pushing chemtrail masks since like the late 90s. You could have made it a thing. Like truthers wear masks because they know that the air is not safe to breathe. I mean, they got water filters. Nice. Armin Reese says I'm available, Tim, for number 2. Good, good. Number 1 was just setting the stage. Like this is our paradigm. This is the off-world stage perspective. The next one is just going to build on that and go into topics, nuance. Like I want to do a 1 or a 2 hour talk specifically on the meta-scripters and the associated news events that correspond to what they produce. You know, psyops imitate art, and life imitates psyops. And I want to look at the artistry, the scripters, the writers, and the interconnectedness. But I want to do it in a very focused way. A lot of people were really entertained and impressed by Reverse History's breakdown of predictive programming, showing how consistent it is, how detailed it is, how specific it is. It's undeniable. So I can't wait for the next one. And I said once a year is not enough. We have a 30-year plan, but we want to try to get it done in 10 years. So we're going to do these monthly. And the next one will be live. But if you want to be a direct participant, you're going to have to get into the Zoom conference, and I'll make tickets available once we have the details solidified. So today we just said Happy Hoaxiversary Vegas. You know, Don Lemon, by the way. You know Don Lemon? I wonder if I posted it. Don Lemon liked one of my comments. And it was like a hate like. I got the email this morning. It's like, Don Lemon liked your comment. And I had said something about, why does this guy only have 30,000 subs? Which is pretty pathetic if you think about it. 30,000 subs. I'm going to pull up that email just so you can see. Or I'll post it later. I don't know if anybody cares. I mean, Don Lemon's just a CNN type. But it's just funny to think that they're so sensitive, insecure, that they actually go through and they read comments from normies like me. Like, we're way down here, you're way up there, and you're actually reading to see what we have to say. Armin Reese says Madrid had fake bombings, 3/11/2004. Yeah, pop quiz. How many days after 9/11/2001? How many days after that was the Madrid bombing? Anyone? So the days between 9/11/2001 and 3/11/2004. Let's go to the how many days between two dates. So we're going to go September 2001. And I don't think there's any, like, I don't spend a lot of time doing, I don't think you can do predictions based on days between dates. You can find correlations all day long. It doesn't necessarily mean everything in every instance. However, some of these instances are very obvious and undeniable, and you don't have to do too many permutations to make sense of it. It's just in your face. There's a pattern here. So let's take a look here. 3/11/2014. And I think it's exactly, and Snopes actually covered this one too. Anyone guessing? I'm waiting for a few more comments. Eccentric says, you're too good to work in a call center, Tim. I don't think so. I happen to like call center work. But, yeah, 911 days after 9/11. 911 days after 9/11, 2001. I would happily work at a call center to make everything work. But for some reason, I don't know. Do I set off red flags? I'm trying to figure it out. Like, what is it? Is there some kind of, I don't know. Am I black? Is there some kind of sabotage, perhaps? I need to do a background check, I suppose. I'm still waiting for the FOIA request. The FBI is supposed to give me everything. All right, sign up at ips.monster. You don't want to miss. Yes, 2004. 3/11/2004, we're talking about the... And which one was Ariana Grande a part of? Wasn't she a part of one of these PSYOPs? That was the Madrid train bombing, 3/11/2004. But yes, between that date and 9/11/2001, you had 911 days. And I remember Snopes looked into this one. And of course, this is just one example, but there are so many. Flaming Goat says, Tim, what's your opinion on the radical left hiding aliens from the rest of us? Now, that's not bad. That's probably accurate because the left is associated in this political horseshoe as being part of the government, and the right is the anti-government. The right is anti-aliens, aliens are demons, and they believe, according to Tucker Carlson and others, that the aliens made a deal with the government. Reoccurring story that they're trading, like, for example, they're giving the aliens human sacrifices or humans to feed off of in exchange for tech. That was the story in Sputnik, which a horror movie about a alien that arrives as a virus and it lives in your esophagus. And that came out the same month that the Sputnik vaccine came out. But that was the story, that the government was working with these aliens. And so you would associate that with the left. That the left wing would be associated with the collusion between government and aliens. Which also ties into the left being satanic, or rather atheistic and carriers of sin. They're not saved, and God hates them. And then the right is saved, and they're framing everything in terms of good and evil. So it would make perfect sense that the left is associated with aliens or demons. Adrenochrome, for example, human sacrifice. That is a left-wing thing. So yeah, absolutely, the left is aligned with demons and aliens because it's the same thing. InkG, yes, my social credit score must be wrecked. So 911 days between Madrid bombings and September the 11th. Status, true. Odd coincidence. Others say it's symbolism, showing Madrid bombings were staged by the New World Order. So what's the cause of it? Anyone? According to Snopes, finding these coincidences gives us a sense of control over a world gone mad. So you can decode things and you feel a little more comfortable about it. Yeah, I feel more comfortable knowing that the world is under the control of Kabbalistic wizards and witches who like to dress up their mass murders with cryptic numerology. Yeah, I do that because it makes me feel better. Like, come on, give me a break. We're just noticing things, that's all. This is Autohoaxology.
I don't believe in chemtrails, I don't live in Truthville. Just because you saw it on the screen doesn't make it real. I don't take the red pill, I don't take the blue pill. I just choose to follow my dreams, Autohoax and chill. I stepped off the world stage and I've moved away from all the fake outrage and the hearsay. And I don't give the time of day to those that naysay, because they got a bad case of the mind age. I stepped away from the game entirely, I won't be caught up in their lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely, I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading Autohoaxology. Out of the control system finally, I know where to go if you follow me, cause I've been reading Autohoaxology. Nothing can bother me, Autohoaxology. Open the screen before patience of the auto-believer to become a new creation on the raft of receivers. Standing on the sword of truth, I stop the facts of deceiver, demanding burdens for the proof from all the hacks and believers. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in the lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been saved by reading auto-hoaxology. Out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me. Cause I've been reading auto-hoaxology. Nothing can bother me. Auto-hoaxology. What would the scream before it's blasphemy? I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin' reading auto-hoaxology. Suspending all the judgment, you won't get a reaction. Won't defend it, I won't budge until I get all the facts in. I won't argue with the bots about the next current thing. Crying over the fake bodies like a bitter death clinger.